Cafe anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Welcome to episode 1844, 1844. I'm your host, Mike Matthews.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
And this is episode 1844. We are 1,844 episodes in to the podcast that you are listening to. I'm Mike Matthews, and this show has lots of characters, and it's cool, and people listen to it because they've got nothing else to do, and they like to drool. And you know, this is important to say on Mother's Day, that your mom is awesome, or
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I don't know, maybe she was a self-deluded, awful person, but at any rate, she was your mom, and there you go.
Mike's
Mother's Day.
Daily
Not always the best day
Podcast
for everyone, but that's how holidays go.
Yeah!
Some holidays are wonderful to people. Others, nah. Like, some people are always frightened by Halloween. They don't like it because Halloween is just scary and people put blood on their face and it's gross and they're zombies. Or they don't like the 4th of July because that's the holiday they remember that their dog ran away. Or they remember that it's so loud and somebody blew their hand off one year. You know, stuff like that happens on holidays. And they're not the best things and times to remember. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it is. And that's how we are with humans. And we equate things with other things. So I recently, within the past year, became a manager, and I manage people, which you can't do. It's like managing cats. People are worse than cats. People, it's like herding cats. You can't herd people. It's impossible. The Bay Area, this is how they deal with herding people, herding them. They put signs up everywhere over the most ridiculous things. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. You can't do this. No this, no that. Signs everywhere. Signs. But in the world of managing, you ask people to do certain things, and when they say no,
And here's today's podcast picture.
it's time to say bye-bye. But this is a podcast picture of a new park that hasn't quite opened yet in Castro Valley, Podcastro Valley. And I took a picture of it yesterday. Those are some sheep and goats telling me what a bad picture this is. But they are on all the places with lots of weeds. They are our weed abatement program, these goats and sheep, and they leave all kinds of wonderful droppings behind that fertilizes the ground eventually. Gives it very important nitrates, keep the soil going. But yeah, they go around and they eat and they mow down all these weeds and fields. And then they got their little dogs that run around, the shepherds do, that are usually not Basil the boxer who's barking there, but border collies and Australian shepherds, because they're just amazing dogs with the herding these animals and in keeping the goats from, getting eaten by coyotes or walking out into the middle of the road or some crazy thing. They're good and amazing to watch. Anyway, this is happening, Cafe Anyway, at the hillsides of Castro Valley. You can see that picture, by the way, at MikesDailyPodcast1844Equate, where I have all the past podcast pictures. I was talking about a ego that I've had to deal with in my line of work. And now the person that produces the ego show has decided not to show up for tomorrow, which means I have to get up before the sun comes up and head to work. So Mike is getting overworked, my friend, and I'm taking Wednesday off. And if anyone has a problem with it, tough cookies. So they, tough cookies is the nicer way of saying something that rhymes with rough riddies. But at any rate, so I am going to have to deal with the ego that I mentioned in the last show tomorrow. And people that I thought I'd be able to depend on are flaking on me. And I don't like that. I don't like undependables. But, it's life. Herding cats, right? And problems. And some problems you can't solve. People can't be solved. Some of them. You can't figure out a problem like, what's that musical? If you know what I'm trying to allude to, 336MM Daily, you can call me 336MM Daily. How do you solve a problem like Maria? Is that it? Is that what I'm thinking of? Is that West Side Story? No. It's something. Is it Sound of Music? At any rate, Cafe Anyway, it is that there are problems in this world that we can't solve. And the mental anguish you put yourself through, and the waking up at 3 a.m. and your brain is going and whirling and whirring around and trying to solve the problem, but it can't because it's an unsolvable problem. And you'll just keep going around and around and around and around and around. And this is what causes our society anxiety, is the problems that we can't solve. And our minds go, well, I cannot just accept this. I just can't accept this is a problem that I can't solve. But there's something else that you can do. It's just, waiting for an answer, I guess. Or is it... There was a song by Yes in the early 80s when they were trying to be their power ballad band, power rock, corporate rock band in the early 80s. They had a song, Hold on, wait, maybe the answer is looking for you. And I found that to be true. Sometimes the answer does find me, and I was trying so hard to find the answer, and it just finds me, and it gets solved. Sometimes that happens, and you just have to wait. It just takes time, and we haven't introduced time into the equation. We just think problem must be solved, but we don't realize that problem plus time equals can be solved. We don't throw it into the equation, and thus now we can solve it. That's what I find with equations and equating and solving, trying to solve problems. But I want to ask you this question. If you're a millennial or any type of person in the world today that has a cell phone, think about how your cell phone is more of a spell phone, how it just has put a spell on you. I put a spell on you because you're mine. And thank you. I didn't know I could do a screaming Jay Hawkins impression. Maybe that wasn't. But at any rate, Cafe Anyway, as we go outside of Cafe Anyway, here somewhere in Podcastro Valley 10, the last place on earth. Maybe, because you're mine, because maybe we have these damn things are casting a spell on us and preventing us from experiencing life. I talked about this a little bit on the Thursday show, but I'm calling them spell phones from now on, because they cast a spell on you, and you got to be aware of that. You got to be cautious of that. They've killed people. Isn't that amazing that this device has, remember when we were kids and they had those little guns, those toy guns, and it put a kid's eye out once, and then they took all those toys away from us and they prevented the little thing to shoot out anymore? And if it did, it had to... I remember there was like a Battlestar Galactica toy spaceship, and it used to have these cool little tiny little pieces of plastic that would shoot out. Well, apparently it put a kid's eye out. And I feel bad for that kid that he's going to have a glass eye for the rest of his life. But what it ended up doing was it made the Mattel or whoever had to make a toy where it looked, you'd press the button and you'd hear the little click, and it looked like it would shoot out, but it would go only so far and stop. And then Nerf came along, and they made these little things. You could shoot these little bullets out of these guns, but they were completely foam and wouldn't hurt your eye, even if they were going... If they were going 80 miles an hour, it could take your eye out. But they just don't go that fast, and they're spongy and fluffy and foamy, and they don't hurt. So we got rid of those. But the frickin' cell phone, who's kills people daily on the roads, on the highways, because people are texting. Or they're not looking where they're going and they step off across the street and they get killed by a car speeding by that doesn't see them or whatever. Or we're immersed in our spell phone on the train or on the bus and somebody comes along and kills us. I don't know. It just seems like it distracts us to death. And it's amazing they're still selling them. A bazillion-dollar industry. And my lovely lady friend just bought a new one. So, yes, they can be a cause for good. But they are often, I think they're spell phone. I think they cause harm. And guns cause harm, and yet we can still buy those on every street. That's another story. Here's the thing, though, is just don't get too wrapped up. If you can't solve a problem, wait, give it time, and it could be solved. Don't get frustrated like that. Don't. Watch out, because everyone's got the anxiety today. It's huge. So much so, in fact, that the pastor that I ran into over a week ago, that I was talking about on the podcast, I think that I did about a week ago, with the guests Dawn and Giselle that stopped by. And I was talking about how I was walking home from BART, and there was a guy, BART being our local Bay Area transit train system, and there was a pastor walking along, and I happened to know his daughter, so I had heard of him. She's often talked about him, and I've known other people that go to his church, so I'm talking to him, and he's telling me that his church is doing a special series on your brain is trying to kill you, and anxiety is trying to kill you, and that kind of thing. And we're so wrapped up with anxiety and the stuff in our lives that causes so much stress that we don't just let it go. And from the Christian point of view, they would tell you that God has got it all set, has taken care of everything. And if you are full of anxiety and full of worry, you're saying to God, I don't trust you. I don't have faith in you. I don't have faith that you'll provide for me. And so I'm just going to stress about it. And I guess that's in the Bible somewhere. And I was talking to this pastor about it. And he goes, oh, yeah, it's in Romans, blah, blah, blah. And he could quote the verse, of course, because he's a pastor. But yeah, so, but even if you're not a Christian, even if you're not religious, you do have to realize that we are causing ourselves too much of this. And maybe it's because of what I was talking about on this show today. But first, let's say hi to some people before we wrap up the show. Because did you know I was wrapping up the show? Yes, I have to wrap up the show. Look who's here. Hello, my guys. It's Madame Rootabega, and I dated a pastor once. Oh, yeah. What was it like? He's very nice. Uh-huh. Every Sunday morning, he would disappear. Oh, yeah, he was, doing his church thing. He wasn't a priest. Well, he couldn't have been a priest if he was your boyfriend, married to him, something like that. Yes. Look who else is here. Right now.
Hello there, Mike. This is Valentino, the parking attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, I put a spell on you.
Yes, stop doing that.
Okay.
That's the end of the show. This dialogue was very insightful today, wasn't it? Next show, it'll be the wonderful Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer. Tell me what you think of the show, 336MM Daily. You can also go to the website, MikesDailyPodcast.com. Hope you had a great Mother's Day weekend, whatever. And I shall talk to you soon, right here.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!